So I think you've all probably been hearing the same thing I have as it pertains to SEO traffic and affiliate publishers in the financial space. And the headline is anyone connected to SEO to drive traffic to their pages is getting hurt right now by all the changes with Google and everything that's going on with AI and LLMs and effectively um, people getting answers straight out of the preview box on Google rather than clicking through the links and reading. So I got pretty curious about this. I started digging in. I've had a conversation with at least 4 CEOs of publishers, both domestically and overseas, just because I wanted more color on what was going on here. I also wrote a piece recently on SEO and the organic traffic challenges. I'll link out to it in the show notes. I'm going to cover some of the ideas here in today's episode, but if you're really curious, looking at the references and sources and digging in, I tried to be thorough and citing all my sources in that article. Here's what's going on, just at a high level. We have organic traffic down. I actually went into one of those search tools, think like the SEMrush, Ahrefs, those types of tools that actually plot out traffic over time. And I just started putting in publishers you've heard of within the affiliate market just to see what's going on. And here's high level what I'm noticing. The traffic peaked in about, and I'm talking organic traffic here, April 2024. It's still on a decline for almost all the publishers I saw. So it doesn't seem to have stabilized yet. And we're talking reductions in like the 50 to 90% range. So pretty crazy stuff. So I guess the first question is, what's the impact? So there's a very obvious top line revenue problem here for these publishers. If we continue, these businesses, from what I've heard, tend to operate at fairly thin margins. So 6 to 12% is what I've heard is fairly normal. I'm guessing this is all over the board. But even if you believe it's 15 or 20%, if 50 to 90% of your traffic kind of disappeared over the last 18 months, that's a huge issue. So I think a disruption like this in traffic is going to make some of these companies unprofitable or unviable as compared to April 24 when it peaked. So they're left to decide, well, are they going to increase revenue or reduce costs? So if they're going to increase revenue, they're going to buy more traffic, either from Google itself or from probably social channels, which means the spread that they're going to get on each transaction is now lower because presumably those SEO clicks they were getting before were very low cost, not zero. It obviously costs money to develop the content, but now the cost of a click went up, and now maybe they're also going to hit native email lists or other lists that they have. And I know some publishers that than others when it comes to emails. But I would expect if you have an email list, you're going to be hitting that harder, assuming you're trying to fill a revenue gap. And then on the cost side, I think they're going to rethink their organizational structures and people expenses. They're probably rethinking data partnerships. Do I really need to be paying all these data partners? I'm imagining less R&D as well. So that's some of the implications for the publishers. On the lender side, some of the implications, one is just have empathy for what publishers are going through right now. It's a tough time to be in their shoes. They're probably going to have pressure to raise CPAs. Again, I think average cost of traffic has gone up, and they're going to have every incentive to raise CPAs in order to offset that. I would look at traffic quality. Organic traffic and paid traffic probably behave very differently, both from an intent perspective and also from a credit quality perspective. So I would keep a close eye on publisher traffic you think is exposed to this SEO shock and see if they're preserving their credit quality. I expect consolidation in the market too. So I think some of these smaller pubs may fold or merge, or they're going to have to do something to stay viable. Another note here, Credit Karma seems to be not impacted by this at all. They file publicly and they seem to be growing steadily through this time frame. And that makes sense, actually, because I don't expect a lot of their traffic to be coming from SEO. It's coming probably more from the native app, where people have it downloaded on their phone and they visit regularly to check their score and shop for products. So Karma seems insulated from this. And we'll talk more about other marketing implications towards the end of the episode. Before we continue, I do want to pause here for a moment to mention two of our sponsors on this podcast. So very grateful for their support. So first we'll talk about Spinwheel, and I want to congratulate them on their recent fundraise. What they do, and two of my favorite features, one is what I think of as a pre-fill for a lending application. So with just date of birth and phone number, they can pull down where you live, your email address, and a host of things about you that help make filling out lending applications really easy. So check that out. And then they also have a direct debt pay down feature. I think this is relevant for personal loan lenders who have customers coming in consolidating debt. They make it easy for the customer to pay off those credit card debts directly. So check out those two features. If you're not familiar with Spinwheel, you can check them out at spinwheel.io. Next is Fintel Connect. They're an all-in-one affiliate platform. And I think they're a great option if you're struggling to manage the long tail of publishers. So if it's hard to get on the phone and sign up all these publishers and manage them, I think they have a really great platform you can consider. They'll do reporting, invoicing, they take care of compliance. They'll even make intros to the publishers if you don't have relationships with them. If you've worked with CJ or Rakuten or Impact and you haven't been fully satisfied with your experience, Fintel is a great option and worth taking a look. If you need intros at either company, I'd be happy to make them for you directly. So contact me. My email's in the show notes, or you can go straight to their websites. Again, it's spinwheel.io and then fintelconnect.com. All right, so let's jump back into SEO and what's going on here. I want to just summarize quickly some of the points I made in the article. So first, we'll talk about NerdWallet. They report publicly as well, as does Karma. And the thing that made me have a WTF moment is that I saw their credit card business was down 25%, 25 year over year in their most recently reported quarter. And their leadership cited more pronounced organic traffic challenges as the reason. So this was interesting because I'm pretty plugged into credit cards, both on the publishing side and on the lending side. And it's been a pretty strong year, or maybe even 2 years, there's 3 years. The category is growing. There's new entrants. I mean, the competition and density has increased. So I was surprised to see they were down in that category. But that just kind of underscores what they're probably struggling with, which is an over-reliance on SEO. And I'm imagining they're now getting really creative on what they're going to do to offset that headwind. So I'll be keeping a close eye on NerdWallet and how they navigate this. But it's important to know why. So why is the organic traffic softening? And two things came up. One was the HCU, so the helpful content update. This was from September 2023. And basically this was Google's way of saying, look, if you're building domains that have thousands and thousands of pages, none of which are all that helpful to my users, we're going to dock you, and that's going to hurt your ranking and your visibility on Google. And then the big one, actually, which aligns really well with when traffic seems to have peak, was the AI overviews. That dropped in May 2024, and that's when Google started giving answers straight in the search, like right after you search, rather than the first thing you seeing a bunch of blue links. It just kind of answers your question right there with a quick summary. So it seems like that's working really well for Google. I actually heard indirectly. So a friend of mine has a good friend that works with Google and knows the senior people there. And apparently Google knows that, like, how successful that is. And they've actually been holding off on releasing it more broadly, kind of the AI overviews thing, because they don't want to kill the entire publishing ecosystem. So it's kind of interesting that, yeah, we're seeing these big drops in this 18-month period, but it could be much worse. And Google's actually protecting publishers right now, which is kind of incredible to hear that. So again, that's kind of rumor mill stuff, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was true. Other things that notice in the article, obviously we're talking about financial publishers right now, but it seems like nobody's safe here. CNN's traffic's down 30%, Oprah Daily down 58%, New York Magazine down 32%, GQ.com 26%. Like, everyone's feeling it. All right, so like, now what? You're a marketer. Couple implications here just to keep in the back of your head as we navigate this. One, SEO is transforming into GEO, so generative engine optimization. So basically, same idea, same game, but the rules have changed. So we'll have to get educated on how that's going to work. The big one for me, I create a lot of content, and my primary one's LinkedIn, and I always try to. This big reason I have this podcast and my newsletter is to deplatform LinkedIn a little bit. Like if my reach on LinkedIn ever went to zero on an extreme, I'd want to have ways to communicate with my audience, and that's a big reason why I do these episodes and why I write so regularly in my newsletter. So I think every marketer is going to have to deplatform Google. So that's another lesson. And then the third lesson is you just got to be careful about building too big on rented land. So SEO was rented land. Algorithms are out of the brand's control, and those could obviously, with big technology shifts, can change quickly overnight. So implication here is direct email lists, communities, podcasts, newsletters, and top line brand advertising. That's the direction I think consumer lenders should be going. I think the issue I observe at a high level is we're all so used to paid media arbitrage working and going well that there's many consumer lenders haven't built the muscle to build direct audience and brands. And I think that's a skill that most successful fintechs are going to have to build in order to go up against the top 10 banks in the country. So is organic traffic dead? So like going forward here, speculating a second, I don't think so. I think it's going to migrate to the LLM, the new discovery paradigms that are going to be built on top of AI. I do think the old days of SEO hacking that's over. I think high quality, relevant content is what's going to work. So I think the trickery days might be done. I think the LLMs are going to be really good at sussing that out. And it's also obvious to me people are getting overwhelmed by a lot of content. So I think discovery is going to be heavily influenced by brand. So if you're not building your brand and you're not doing things to reach your audience directly without relying on third-party algorithms, that's where I would be focused if I were looking to build a world-class consumer brand in this category. So I'm going to stop there for now. If this topic is interesting to you, please let me know. I think I think we're scratching the surface here on what I covered in today's episode, but feels like a pretty rich area where I could do research and interview guests and do quite a bit more to get to the bottom of what's going on with SEO and how are publishers navigating it. So if this topic is interesting, please email me directly with your questions, and that will help direct my research and also inspire me to go deeper than what we covered today. So hit me up on LinkedIn or at my email, carlos@newmarketgrowth.com. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me today, and I'll talk to you soon.